What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's a show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. If you're a coach, consultant, or service provider that wants to learn how to leverage your podcast to get more clients and build your online business, you're in the right place. And today we've got another guest coach episode. I'm tagging in one of my newest certified podcast growth coaches, Coach Pat Finner, and she's going to come in and give us a little bit of podcast growth education. She's doing a podcast audit episode here where I'm having my coaches come on the show. I pair them up with somebody and I say, hey, give them your best stuff. So Pat is awesome. Make sure you listen all the way to the outro. Pat filmed a little commercial for you. And that way, if you want to get in touch with her, she's got a lot of great services. You can get all the contact info in the show notes. All right. So without any further delay, let's bring on Coach Pat for her podcast audit guest coaching episode.
So I'm talking this morning with Tristan Law from the Tristan Law Show. And we're real excited. Tristan, we're going to be talking about growth, show growth. And one of his goals that he had spoken to me about was that he'd like to be compensated for advertising. And of course, the way to do that is to grow. Okay, so Tristan, I got a couple of questions for you too, and then I do have some thoughts, but I really want to hear more from you. So let's just dig right in. One of the things that you mentioned to me was that you are looking for part of your ideal listener was someone who looks to like to spend on pro wrestling. And can you clarify that for me? I will admit I'm not I'm not your audience. I don't know much about pro wrestling, but I do know podcasting, so I'm excited about this. What do you mean by spend on pro wrestling?
So I'm looking for somebody that is a fan of pro wrestling, that when they see things that are pro wrestling, they are not apprehensive about opening their wallets and spending on it, whether that be a t-shirt, a membership, a coffee mug, or anything like that. And when you do say that you are not a fan, you're not my ideal fan, you do fit in a demographic, and let me explain how. Okay. Every episode that I make with my mother in mind. Right? My mother's not a pro wrestling fan. You know, she doesn't know The Rock from Hulk Hogan. However, I make every single episode easy enough that when she decides to watch, she doesn't have to ask so many questions. However, for the person that is the pro wrestling fan, I try my best not to speak over, or dumb it down for them so that they can't enjoy it either. So yeah, that's what I mean by, a pro wrestling fan that's willing to, to spend on pro wrestling and likes to spend on pro wrestling.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Well, that was clarifying. That's good for me. And I appreciate your approach. I have 3 sons and they do similar things for me, like they try not to dumb it down, but to make it, understandable, which is really good for any audience. All right. So I noticed now, I also wanted to clarify with you. I noticed you're on 2 platforms. You're on YouTube and you have the audio.
That's correct. That's correct. I kind of stepped back from the audio only version and put both feet into the YouTube primarily version, because I felt that YouTube had an easier way to monetize using Google Ads and different stuff like that.
Okay. So at any point did you look at your analytics for both your YouTube and your audio, or do you do that on a regular basis?
So I look at my analytics for YouTube probably every morning. Okay. I like to see, who listened or what they're listening to and what they like, and comparing it to my audio only version. The audio only version is not getting as much traction as it did during the pandemic. I just came back from my season 3, and within season 3, I've been getting a lot more traction on YouTube. In YouTube in the past, I came back with season 3 in July, the first week of July. And since then, I've gotten 40 something new subscribers in less than a month and a half. Okay. So people are listening, people are consuming. And the way that I deliver the content now on YouTube, I think it's very unique. It's always live. So I do look at my analytics every single day, and that's why I put both feet more into YouTube than in and why I have abandoned the audio only version.
Okay, and so is that moving forward? Is that how what you're looking at? Should we be not talking about the audio? I just want to, whatever we share, I want to make it give you the most bang for your buck kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be video only for right now. For the foreseeable future, I see it being video only.
Okay, all right. Because yeah, I did notice on your audio that it's been a while since you posted, and then it was kind of sporadic. Like you could tell it was kind of pod fade, on the
Right, right.
audio. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Do you have an email list?
Newsletter, no, that is a part of my master plan.
Okay.
I did do a newsletter last summer, just practicing and seeing how it works and stuff like that. But that is definitely a part of my master plan in the future. The reason why I like newsletters or mailing lists is because at the end of the day, you own your audience versus on YouTube and everything else. When they decide that they don't want you there anymore, you lose your audience and you start over at zero.
Yep. I mean, that's social media too, like any Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So that's something that, and also in terms of being compensated for advertising, that is something that advertisers look at is the size of your list, because that's who we market to. Let's just, I mean, at the end of the day, if someone signed up for your email list, that's their vote of confidence in you. That's they're saying, yeah, I want to hear from Tristan, like on the regular. And those are the people that they're already, your fans. So they probably, like, I don't want to talk indefinites, of course, there's always exceptions, but they would be the ones who'd be most likely to be willing to pay to open up their pocketbooks, So that's something to keep in mind. But we have a way to work on that. So the way I look at growth is there's 4 buckets. Advertising, which is what you're talking about, right? You want to be learning. And I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming that you want to have people pay you to do advertising on your site. Is that right?
That's correct. I want people to pay me to advertise their product on my podcast or on my medium, and primarily I want them to pay me to say, hey, like for me, I love Pepsi, and I want to be able to say that, this episode of the Tristan Law Show is brought to you by Pepsi. Everything tastes better with Pepsi.
Right. Kind of. Okay, good. Yeah, definitely. You have a great voice too for doing that. Now listen, in terms of, and I have to double check this, in terms of advertising though, what I would suggest is that you start building your list. Because that will help you grow your show, which will help you get the views, the eyeballs, which will help you get the ads on your, especially if you're on YouTube. I know YouTube has that whole advertising platform.
Right.
But I also want you to think of something else. Do you have anything that you are considering, even if it's down the line, big picture of your own, any products or services, merchandise? Do you have any kind of?
Yes, so within season 1 and season 2, I had a full-blown website, and on the full-blown website, there's a link that you can go and purchase merchandise and stuff like that. I have been toying with the idea of revamping it, but what I wanted to focus on first was perfecting my product on YouTube and growing my subscriber base so that when I speak to people, I have a lot more people that I can speak to at one time. But yes, merchandise is something that I have thought about. In the future, I do want to produce people's live podcast or recorded podcasts from sitting right here, and they can be anywhere in the world. All I want them to do is just be the talent, and I will be the brains. That's something I'm looking forward to do. And I have maybe about 4 or 5 books that I'm writing that are off topic, but I'm probably thinking that maybe I can use that to help, leverage that one day.
Well, yeah, definitely. It's really funny. There's only I think it's something ridiculous, like 1% of the population who say they have a book in them has ever done it, gone through and accomplished that. So being able to say you're an author really gives you a lot of credibility, even if it's just I say just air quotes, in terms of, being able to follow through with something. So I'd encourage you on the book things. Okay. Back to the advertising. Okay. So you do have some merch. So and did you have it? Were you only selling it on your website, or did you have I'm trying to think of one of those sites, which I'm totally blanking out on.
So yes, it was powered through one of those sites. And I loved the site because I didn't have to have any physical merchandise. I just designed the t-shirts and the mugs or whatever. And if somebody bought it, then it got shipped to them, and then I would get compensated on the back end.
Right, right. And see, that is really okay, here, I'm gonna say advertising in general, I think pays creators pathetically. So I always encourage like my clients to create, and this depends industry to industry, come up with something. If you're a coach, come up with a program that you can sell your own. If you are an author or a speaker, write a book that you can promote, and do maybe coaching from there or something like that. Like advertising, the downside with advertising in general is that you're not promoting yourself. And Tristan, if people are coming to listen to you, they like you. You know what I'm saying? Like they want to hear from Tristan. They might like Pepsi too, but they don't really want to hear from Pepsi. They want to hear from Tristan.
Right. Understood.
So I think like being able to promote your own products and services really gives you credibility. And in the long run, as you build your base, your email list and your raving fans kind of thing, and create your own products, like you're creating your own brand, and you're in the long run going to do much more than you could do with just having the random outside, advertiser. So it is good to have sponsors. I'm not saying don't do that, but I would think bigger than just that. Think about what you have to offer. Do you have any affiliates too? Are there any affiliates that you are products or that you could be a part of?
For right now, no. It's something I tried doing season 1 and season 2.
Mhm.
But it's something that I don't think I was at the level of growth that I could have been at the time. But I use the links on the website and everything else like that. But in the future, yes, that's something I probably do want to get into again.
Right. And see, and so I think really that the advertising is a byproduct of your growth. So I would counsel you to work on the growth right now. And then the advertising, comes from the growth. But that was only one bucket, okay, for growth. Now having guests, you have guests. How do you evaluate your guests? Like, how do you find them, and how do you decide whether they're going to be part of your show?
Very good question. So my podcast, the Tristan Law Show, is centered around me introducing you to the personalities in and outside of the ring, and it also involves me talking about different topics in pro wrestling as well. So since I am a semi-retired professional wrestler, what I do is I look at social media. The low hanging fruit are my friends. Hey, you want to come sit on my podcast? But then the high hanging fruit are people that I watch their videos on social media, and I go, oh, I like that person. Let me see if I can reach out to that person. That person might have some kind of following, or I might see that person is newer in the realm of pro wrestling, and they are doing really well in their videos, like in their matches, but they don't have the following yet. So maybe my fan base and their fan base can marry each other and just have one big happy family.
Right. That I want to commend you on two things. First of all, that you are including the concept of fan base, okay? Because they are, you promote them, they promote you, kind of thing, and everybody grows. But also, I really love your attitude in just wanting to help and promote other people. I think really at the end of the day, this is my little public service announcement. It's not about us. It's about what we can do for others. But anyway.
I agree. And the thing too about being an independent pro wrestler is that you don't have the mainstream money like WWE or anybody else behind you. So you're an independent person. You're just like a person that went to a boxing school. You learn how to box, and now you're boxing in the Golden Gloves. You're just looking for an opportunity. You could be sitting in middle America and you're really good, but you don't know how to market yourself. So you come to the Tristan Law Show, and I help you market yourself.
Mwah, French kiss. That's great. Okay, next. So that's good. So that I think you've got a good approach to having guests. A follow-up question to that would be, and again, part of the growth buckets. Are you a guest? Do you guest on other shows?
Okay. So I have a very solid rule when it comes to being a guest on podcasts.
Mhm.
If you ask me and I have the time, I will go. I've been on some really bad podcasts to where they haven't really done their research on me, and they ask me questions that are like, yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with what I do. But I've been on some really phenomenal podcasts to where they've researched me. I'm like, you've taken the time to watch my videos of me wrestling and listen to my podcast. I really appreciate that. So I always say, if anybody asks me to be on their podcast, I will always go as long as I have time, and I will never charge them.
Mhm. That's excellent. Well, I want to tell you too about something. There's a directory that I'm a part of that takes. I agree with you that you need to be discerning about what shows you're on. Absolutely. But being a guest is also a great, or can be a great way, to grow your show, get more eyeballs, viewers and listeners. But you do have to be discerning. There's a directory that we can talk about at another time if you're interested, where podcast hosts look for specific, it's a very specific filter that they look for guests. So they're looking for people who are going to help their listeners and be interesting to their listeners and apply or appeal to their audience. So if you ever want to talk about that, there's a form you fill out. It's very specific so that, if a host is looking for a guest, they know what your topics are. You come up with like 5 or 10 questions that you are ready to answer, just like that. You get the opportunity to give a little bio, how you can help their listeners. It's a very, very, very focused questionnaire, so that when people approach you, you still have the option of saying no, you don't want to be on the show. But it gets your name out there for hosts who are looking for you, for your type of person. So that's a way of developing and growing your discernment. If you want to talk about that, we can do that another time. And I can tell you more about that. Okay. And then the fourth bucket that I want to talk about for, getting compensation is a subscription model. And I don't know if you've thought about that at all, or if that's in your, 30,000 foot. But the added benefit to that is that it grows your email list at the same time, because people who sign up for this, to be a member, obviously have to share their name and email address. But it's also a great place for you to get feedback from people, excuse me, from your audience type people on what products and services that they have, or that they want, that you can provide for them. Has that ever like kind of have you ever thought about doing something like that?
Yeah, that's something I thought of, because YouTube does have a subscription platform that you can use. And I thought to myself, what can I sell? But I never, thought about, different things that you said that I can now offer them, but I can now poll the audience. It's not something I didn't think of. So, start the subscription before I start the subscription, but poll the audience and see what they want, and just give them what they want.
Right.
Maybe they want exclusive interviews with somebody.
Absolutely. Behind the scenes, like, you go to dinner with your mom, record part of the dinner with your mom. They get to know Tristan. There's so many things that you could offer, something like that. And here's the deal. Some people look down on that because on things like, I'm just going to say Patreon, but there's a whole bunch of other ones, because you usually do like, $5 a month. Like it's a very low hanging, a low budget number. But the thing is that it also encourages people to open their wallets. So I wish I remember that there's a history channel that does that. It's a guy that, does a history podcast.
It might be Curiosity or something like the Curiosity Stream or something.
Something like that. He does a crazy amount of monthly income on his Patreon, and it's like $5 a month. But he offers a lot of, member only kind of materials. He's got just special interviews. He might do a snippet of a podcast, and he doesn't do this for all of them, but he might do like a snippet of a podcast on YouTube and say, hey, this is a members only treat. If you want the whole thing, head over to Patreon and you can get the whole thing. I wouldn't suggest doing that all the time, obviously, because it just gets cheesy. But it's a way to offer value and offer something interesting to your audience. And again, it might be, way to start monetizing before you're that might grow into, I was going to say before you get into big bucks, but it might be a way to get into big bucks. Who knows, So those are the four things that I was, that I am seeing as compensate. You talked about compensated by advertising, but I really think that there are other ways that you can get compensated, either prior to or in addition to advertising, and as also as a way of growing your show. I do have a question, and you have a great on-screen personality. Do you have any kind of, they call it a lead magnet, and it's kind of like a freebie that a person can, give you their name and email address, and in return, you send it to them. Often it's like a PDF or a written thing, but is there anything that you might be able to think of that you could offer people? It's a way of building your email list.
Huh. No, that's not something I thought of, but I'm open. I'm always open to hear everybody's advice and recommendations.
Well, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I would suggest that you do a video, and we could, if you wanted to work together, we could brainstorm a whole bunch of ways, but topics. But off the top of my head, I'm thinking a video of like wrestling for dummies, and I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of talking about like maybe how you got into wrestling, what wrestling means to you, and then some insider info about wrestling. And that would be a private video on YouTube that when people sign up for your email list, you send that to them.
I like that.
And that would be a way of really you introducing yourself to them. They get to know you a little more, and you get to start building your email address, your email list rather. So
I like that.
And
I did do a couple videos explaining, how I got into independent wrestling, how I became a pro wrestler and stuff like that. And I did feel that looking at my analytics, that's not really where the interest lies, but I did it because I wanted to introduce myself to this, new audience, or reintroduce myself to this audience, and not let them have to go to someone else's podcast to hear my story. They can come directly for me to hear the story. But I think that's a fabulous idea. Pro Wrestling 101 from Tristan Law. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. And you host it on YouTube, so you can keep it, but do it private so people won't find it. But
Right.
they have to get your thing. So that might be a way of you just starting, your email. And then actually as you look at the analytics for that too, and get feedback from people, you can decide if you want to do a second one, and which can then actually become part of your membership, right? People, here's the intro, here's where you get started. Let's get to know each other better through the membership. Sign up on Patreon, and we can do this once a month. You can make them in Patreon too. You can make maybe a once a month live, bring your questions, and do an AMA about wrestling, about me, about politics, like whatever you want to talk about, because they want to know you.
Yeah.
And build that before you start like really doing advertising, even if it's for your own merch and stuff, like build that relationship, because really people are people buy from who they like.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so that's some of the thoughts. Now, by the way, I want to let you know I did notes on everything we just talked about, and I will be sending them to you as a follow-up after this video. So if there's anything that popped up that you want to get back to me about, you can do that, and if not, that's fine. It's just for you. And let's see, I'm just trying to think if there was anything else I had. Okay, that's all I have. Do you have, we still have a few minutes. Do you have any questions or any issues, concerns that you want to just talk about that in general?
First off, I don't want to say I appreciate the time that you've spent with me on this fall Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I always do is that I always spend 3 hours in my morning starting at 9 a.m. I did wake up a little bit earlier today to be prepared for you, but I do spend 3 hours because I work a regular job. I work on the subway in New York City. So, I have a great job, and I'm ready to leave that job if I can make this YouTube podcasting thing work, because I just Love it. I went to broadcasting school. I got the opportunity on a country music radio station, and I just loved it. Do I like country music? Not really, but when they asked me, oh yeah, I love country music, and I did it. And I like country music now because you never know how the door of opportunity, it only knocks so loud. So I want to be able to, grow this thing. And what I do is I wake up every day, and for 3 hours in the morning from 9 to 12, I usually do something. Either that's plan out content or plan out ideas, so I'm never out of ideas. I look at my analytics and see, okay, well, what do people really like watching from me on YouTube? And I figure out ways to make my presentation a lot better. Before, what I used to do when I started my videos, that I'd always say, welcome to the Tristan Law Show. This is Tristan Law. And, thanks so much for joining me today. Last video we did this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nobody really cares about that. So now my new intro is, this is the Tristan Law Show. If it's your first time here, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Tristan Law. Today, we're going to be talking about ABC, X, Y, and Z, and jump right into the content. Forget all this stuff. I'm trying to be a little bit more respectful of people's time. And this, when they click the video that says, how to bake a cake, they're going to click the video and watch me, and we're just going to bake the cake. Forget everything else. And then one of the things I started doing as well, too, that I wish I knew earlier when I was podcasting, is that I would always ask for the subscription in the first 3 seconds of the podcast. And I learned from watching numerous videos and reading books that I can't give the ask because I haven't given any value yet. So now what I'm doing is now I'm positioning my ask after I give about a good 4 to 5 minutes of value. I can say, well, to keep this conversation going, the biggest compliment that you can give me is your subscription. Subscribe to the Tristan Law Show for more information on what I do, and I just keep going back into the content, in and out.
That is, Tristan, with your mindset and your mindset, your content is just, it's fun, too. And your energy, and also the fact that you are being so intentional about this, even though you have another job. I mean, I think it's a long game. Podcasting is, whether it's a YouTube video podcast or whether it's an audio show, it's a long game, but you got to be willing to put in, the time and the energy and the heart, honestly. And you really seem like that's where you are. I think there's no reason why. I think you need to build a team,
Right. And that's one of the things that I want. That's one of the things that you don't live in New York City, do you?
No, but I grew up in Queens. And when you said you work in the subway, I was like, oh my gosh.
So I one of the things that I want to do is I want to build a team, and I feel that advertising will help me do that, because I'm sitting here with an iPad, and I have my MacBook, and then I have my board to manage my audio, and then I have my switcher to switch the scenes. I want to pay somebody to do all of that for me. And every single day when I work on the L train right there in Brooklyn, they're building this brand new building at Broadway Junction, and it's a nice, beautiful building. I look into that building and I go, I want to put my office in that building. I want somebody to come and knock on my door and say, hey, I want you to teach me what you know.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I'm going to push back a little bit. You just mentioned that advertising is the way to do that. I would disagree with you, and I would say it's collaboration, and you are well on your way to collaboration. It's you don't have to have people in your office in Brooklyn, which I'm not saying, hey, go ahead, do it, man, go for it, and I'll come visit. But I mean, in terms of building a team, we are in the digital age, Guy. I mean, they don't have to be in New York, and you have contacts, or are able to get contacts, with other talented, motivated people that can help you and make it a combination. Well, you got some people IRL in real life, and then other people that you bring in and do things, online, or when you get really rich and famous, you can fly them in for a weekend for a mastermind or something. I just think I would encourage you to think bigger than advertising, like collaborating. You have a collaborative spirit, and when the tide rises, it raises all ships, right? So that's what collaboration is all about. And advertising may be part of it. I'm just suggesting that you don't put all your eggs in that bucket. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. I understand. I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. Thinking about it now. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Pod Pals, this is your podcast producer and growth coach, Pat Fenner, reaching out to you. I work with you to get your message from the mic to the masses. I provide sound editing services and content coaching services, which includes growth strategies. And I love working with silver-haired business beauties like coaches, consultants, and service providers who may feel a bit challenged with the technology in the back end of getting a show out in the air. Are you curious? Well, why don't you hop on a no-obligation pod chat with me at patfenner.me, and I have a free gift for you whether or not we work together. Hope to hear from you soon.